This is Awakening Dreams by Raw, a podcast about ordinary people living, searching, and living out their authentic lives true to their purposes. I'm your host, Elle Cheng, champion for authentic connection, where every person deserves to be seen and heard. In this episode, we have Mckenzie, a holistic life and success coach for women who will be sharing her journey to create a purposeful life and impactful business by following the blueprint of her soul. So welcome, Crystal.
Thank you.
Okay, Crystal, can you share with me and with my audiences, how will you describe yourself? What are some of the attributes that you use to describe yourself?
I would describe myself as passionate, determined, very introspective, introverted, intuitive, and empowering.
Actually, I did sense that when we first met. I can feel that you're a very strong person. Were you like this since you were a child, or there were some changes and someone shaped you to who you are today?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say both. I think that I certainly was introverted as a child, and intuitive. I think that I saw the kind of that intuitive piece as more as being sensitive. So I saw that as a weakness. So it is really interesting. I think that a lot of things that have happened in my life have helped me see that those parts of me are actually my gifts and not my weaknesses. So yeah, I think it's both.
Okay. Can you share with me that experience, or what happened that made you realize that the sensitivity or that intuition is not a weakness and it's a strength?
Okay. I think it's hard to actually pinpoint one specific thing. But I feel like, especially as women, we are often told that the sensitivity, or we're too emotional or too sensitive. And so we're kind of raised thinking that we need to really calm down our emotions, and we need to be quote unquote stronger, not show our emotions or not feel the way that we feel. However, I think that is absolutely a gift to be connected to your emotions and to be sensitive to your emotions. I think the challenge though is that as we become adults and we realize, yes, we have these emotions and we're sensitive, or at least I can speak for myself. I have these emotions, I'm sensitive, but I don't know how to deal with them because I didn't learn how to do that. So now I have to figure that out. And so I feel like once I was able to learn how to, recognize, acknowledge, honor, and process my emotions, I just feel like that is a gift, especially in a world where there's so much going on, and to be able to just have those emotions and be in touch and connect with people in that way, I feel like is a gift.
Okay. So with once you know how to, once you can identify and acknowledge your emotions, you feel that it allows you to connect with others better.
Yes, absolutely.
You mentioned you are passionate yet introvert. How does that work? Because for me, passionate is like, someone who's loud and stuff. Yeah.
Yes. You know what? I'm glad that you asked me that, because I think that's been a really big challenge, and I do feel like that's a big challenge for people who identify as being introverted, because passionate, yes, I think a lot of people in society see passionate as somebody who is loud and just very extremely outgoing and just really put themselves out there. But I also want to be an example for women who do feel like they're introverted and maybe have been told or have this belief that they need to be louder, that they need to be more extroverted in order to get that passion out. And so, yes, I feel like being an introvert and being an online coach has been extremely challenging. And I still struggle with that. I think it's hard. I think it's more of the self-expression piece that's harder, being an introvert. So yeah, that's something that I definitely still struggle with.
What are you passionate about, and how does the introverted passion look like? Right, because like you mentioned, there's the expectation where you're loud, you're putting yourself out there, and if that's not the case and you are authentically who you are, but yet I'm sure you are passionate about something, I can feel that in you. How would that look like?
My passion is about helping women find their voice and use their voice and live their life in a way that is satisfying to them and that's true to them. And as I'm sure you know as well, that's not always an easy journey. In fact, it's a very challenging journey. So yes, I'm extremely passionate about helping women find their voice, use their voice, find their purpose, and just live a life that's authentic.
Tell me more about what you do. Yeah, so I said I hear the passion about empowering women, helping them to find their truest version of their lives. Yeah, how do you help them?
So I call myself a holistic life and success coach. And so for me, I know that a lot of people, that specific term has been used in different ways, but for me, that means taking an approach of mind, body, and soul. So it's really like I help my clients kind of like weed through the social programming, all the social conditioning, the limiting beliefs, the fears, all of these things that we've been taught that really block us from living our true life, our purpose, our just being connected with who we really are. So it's going through the mindset work. It's learning how to manage emotions, like I talked about just a couple of minutes ago, and then really connecting in with your soul, with your true self. So it's definitely a process that those are like my three main, I don't know, pillars, I guess you could call them. So it certainly is a process, a holistic process, and it's a journey.
Okay. Yeah. So I hear that it's aligning the mind, body, and soul, so that when they're congruent, then they're authentic, right?
Yeah.
Why is this important to you personally?
I think that for me, there's a big portion of my life where that was not happening for me. And it resulted in many things, many hardships. One of the biggest ones being I had a very traumatic marriage. Married for 7 years. And I got married at a time when I certainly was not connected with who I was. I didn't know who I was. I struggled with, self-esteem and really just, not having that inner connection. So it resulted in a relationship, a toxic relationship, a toxic marriage that took a good portion of my adult life. In the midst of that was, depression and anxiety, and and then, you know, once that ended, it was just trying to like kind of sort through all that stuff, heal from that stuff, and then figure out, who am I? Who was I before that? But also, who am I now after all of these things that happened? And how do I find her? Because it gets to a point in life where you've gone through all these things and you feel like you have no idea who you are. And that's not a good place to be in. When you feel like you don't know who you are, it's like, well, how do I move through life like that? What do I do with my life when I don't know who I am? So I went through that process of, you know, trying to figure out who I was, what is my purpose, what makes me happy, what does a healthy relationship look like? How do I get to that point? How do I make that happen? So yeah, it was just my own journey of trying to get to this place, and, you know, having some success and having a lot of failures. And so I think it's important to take what I've learned and all the things that I've gone through and use that to help other women.
Thanks for sharing about what you went through, you know, a traumatic marriage. When you shared that, you know, I have this tightness here. Like I guess in a way I feel like, am I going through something like that? Because I think when you mentioned that when you married your husband, at that time you still didn't know who you were. When I got married to now, I feel that I'm a very different person. But at the same time, you know, I needed a partner who will constantly change with me as well. Right? If not, then if I've outgrown that person, then, you know, how do you make that partnership work?
Yes. And I actually think that's something that holds a lot of women back, is because, you know, they and a lot of times they don't realize that, because they know that they want to go after something, or they want to go through some personal development stuff, and but they are in a relationship and they fear that if they do grow, then their partner, that relationship isn't going to be able to remain. So then they hold themselves back, and they don't realize that that's why. They just kind of think it's like, oh, I'm just afraid, or I need to do this thing first, but it's actually like that fear of success, because if they become successful, then, you know, that relationship, those dynamics are going to be different, and sometimes they're not ready to face that.
Tell me more about fear of success. It's like when I heard that word, I'm like,
Yeah. So when I first heard about fear of success, I was like, I am not afraid of being successful. That's crazy. Who would be afraid of being successful? But then as I learned a little bit more about it, I was like, okay, I understand this now. Because and of course, like, everybody has their own definition of what success is, and there is no one thing. And I'm not even referring to money. This could be success in whatever way it is for, you know, whoever is listening. But when you go down a different journey, or you reach these high achievements, your relationships, they change. The dynamics change. It's just inevitable, whether that be your partner or your friendships, or, you know, the relationships with your family.
Yes.
And so sometimes they're not willing to do that. And, you know, that's certainly their own choice, but a lot of times there comes resentment with that. And the relationships then end up, you know, changing anyway because of that internal resentment that they have. Whereas the other people may not even know, like, why are you resenting me? I have no idea what this is about.
Yeah.
And I think the other part of that too, the fear of success, is, there's so many things that could be a result of, you know, just not feeling worthy of success, feeling like you wouldn't be able to keep up with your success, you know, if you suddenly had all of these, you know, as far as like being in business, if you suddenly had all this success and all these people wanting to work with you or wanting to collaborate with you or just all of these different things and feeling like, I don't think I could keep up with it. Maybe I'm too anxious, or maybe I'm too, you know, I'm too disorganized, or there's just so many parts to that. But yeah, I just remember laughing when I first heard fear of success. But it's real. It's valid.
Yeah, I think the big thing that you mentioned is the feeling of that I'm not worthy of success. Yeah. And also like about the holding back because of the fear of you do not know what will be the changes be when it comes to with relationships around you, and you rather not try, right? You rather keep in your comfort zone. Well, when actually, if let's say I dare to go to the unknown, it will be successful. Just that I do not want to know what is success like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So going back to, you mentioned about you know, the whole process of rediscovering yourself, you know, when you were in a very low point of your life, to, you know, at the beginning you were quite sure when I asked you how do you describe yourself, you know, without even thinking, you're like, I'm passionate, I'm determined, I'm empowering. Tell me more about that journey. What did you do, or were there some milestones where you discovered who you are?
I think, yes, I think in the beginning it was more of milestones that were telling me who I wasn't and who I didn't want to be.
Oh, that's a good way, because you mentioned you were so confused, you don't know how to start, right? So that means the first step is, let me tell myself what are the things that I do not want to be.
Yes. Okay. Like I knew that I didn't want to feel the way that I was feeling. I knew that I didn't want to, you know, behave the way that I was behaving. So, and I think it helps when you look at it like that too, because when you're in that space where you feel like you don't know anything and you don't know who you are, and constantly feeling like that and thinking like that is really like, it's hard to move forward like that, because it's like, well, I just don't know anything. I don't know what to do. I don't know. So looking at like, okay, I definitely don't want this. I definitely don't want this kind of relationship. I definitely don't want to be with a man who does these things, or I definitely don't want to hide my emotions or not use my voice. So I think after that, it was finding myself kind of in similar situations, and in particular related to relationships, and getting to the point where I was like, okay, something's not right here, because I was married, I got divorced, I was single for a little bit, then started dating, and I was finding myself getting hurt a lot still, or feeling like, why do I keep getting in these situations where I end up sad and heartbroken and feeling like, you know, I'm abandoned, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy. And so after that happened a couple more times, I sat down. I remember this very clearly. I sat down on my bed. It was after a relationship ended again, and I was just like, I had it. I was fed up with feeling that way. I remember just sitting on my bed thinking, okay, something has to change. Like, there has to be, I can't keep doing this. So I need to figure out what is at the bottom of this, what's causing this. And so that's when I started doing a bunch of research and reading, and that's when I started learning about attachment styles. And I started reading about these, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the problem. I have this like unhealthy attachment style. And so at that point, I decided to go see a therapist, which certainly wasn't the first time I had been in therapy. I started going, it was my first after going through my divorce and everything. So yeah, I went to a therapist and did a lot of work there, did a lot of reading on my own. And I think that's when things really started to shift for me.